So now it's official. Now we're officially rolling. Thank you guys for being here. If you guys are watching on YouTube, subscribed on podcasts, all that stuff, for another episode of the Up and In Show. We are at Cards and Culture. I'm not on the purple couch because I have two guests with me. Thank you guys for being here. Gavin Filasek.
Yeah,
I did
got it.
That's
perfect.
It is. It was perfect, right? And Will, how do you spell that? Harris. Yeah, that's it.
Got it.
Easy day. If you guys have been with us since day one, Will was part of the original 6. Do you remember that? We had 6 people into Marucci.
I do. I was telling him when we were walking in, I was here very early on. It used to be at like Marucci headquarters off of Segan. I remember doing it. It was pretty fun.
I think you might have been one of the first ones.
I think I would assume. You haven't been doing it very long.
No,
I think you had just hired like a couple of guys and like had all the equipment and stuff like that. So.
You guys were definitely the
first
6, and I think you were the first one because, again, very ambitious, right? I didn't know shit about a podcast, all this stuff. Right. So I had a production crew, all that, and we're like, we'll bang out 6 30-minute episodes in a row. We were there for like 6 hours. It was awful. We thought everyone was going to be like 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah, you did roll us in.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because when I was leaving, somebody else was coming in. I remember it now.
Yeah, so we changed shirts and all this stuff, and it was like,
I do remember that. I forgot that part.
Yeah. So it's always nice to like recap, and now it's been 3-4 years later. We're in the shop, but I remember yours was like the first one, and you told the story. You had just won the World Series, but you had kind of told us the whole story of your career and all this. So I think this will be really cool to kind of, recap and come back a couple years later and talk about where you're at right now and everything. But and then obviously what you do with wealth management, that kind of stuff. I think it'll be fun to kind of tie it all in and everything. So awesome. I always like to let our guests kind of introduce themselves a little bit. So why don't you give a little like minute to elevator pitch?
So name is Gavin, obviously, partner at Highland Wealth, so local wealth management firm in Baton Rouge. So I've been in the wealth management business for 15 years. Me and my business partner, Jeff King, merged our practices together 4 years ago and created this company.
Nice.
So now we have 12 people, 6 advisors on the team, have a lot of fun, love the business and learn something new every day, but it's been a good time. So
it's wild times, I'm sure, right now with
it's
the market,
year.
crypto,
so 2022, the market's down.
Yeah.
And, but it's that creates an opportunity for us because people have questions and concerns. Absolutely. And we get to help out. So
I think it'll be fun to dive into that because, like I said, there's a lot of fear around the markets and all these different asset classes and stuff like that. And I think that ties into a lot of stuff that even we're doing here with collectibles, alternative assets, that kind of stuff. So it'll be fun I want to pick your brain on some crypto stuff and see what you think. But Will, why don't you kind of catch us up where you're at? Obviously, everybody knows you're a MLB player, World Series champion, but kind of let everybody know where you're at in your career. And this kind of
definitely
stuff.
A transition period for me, Just finished up this past year, was injured, feel like been forever since I was in Washington. So had a few surgeries that, it's very tough to kind of come back from. And so looking like it's probably the end of the road for my baseball career, but gives me an opportunity to spend more time with my family. And So it's been great. I mean, people ask me like, well, how is it that, now that you're kind of done playing? I'm just like, well, the winter times, it's the same.
Yeah, right now is normal. Yeah.
It's like, this is what I've done for 20 years,
Yeah.
I've come home and done the holidays and stuff like that. So springtime, that's when I probably a little bit of anxiety will like start to creep in of like, I should be doing something right now and I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And so, that'll be different. Almost kind of like, we all went through it in 2020, right? When it's like when the whole world shut down and I came back home and I was, home for Easter and home for all this stuff. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I'm not used to this,
Being in Louisiana.
So I'm sure
that
being in Louisiana. Like I remember going to my uncle's house that summer and being like, hey dude, like when'd you plant that tree? And he goes, that tree is always, what the hell are you talking about? The tree's been there.
Yeah,
but I'd never seen it bloomed
in
the spring and the summer. I'd only seen it when the leaves were off for 20 years. Dang. I never even noticed this freaking humongous tree. Like weird, it's a stupid, but like stuff like that where it's like I'm just so not used to being around for that time. So I'm sure there'll be a lot more of that, which would be cool, man. I mean, my kids are really active, and so missing stuff, and granted they got to experience a lot of great things and traveling, and they've been a lot of places, but it'll be cool to like hang around Baton Rouge.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting, like you said, just to see kind of where you fit in and like how that goes in that transition. But it'll be good that you have the family. How old are your kids?
Daughter's 10, son's 7. So we're in the thick of it, man. They're really active. They They do a lot of stuff, play a lot of, sports and active in school. So it'll be fun. Put my coaching hat on here.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I like to be like the third coach. If like flag football is
Sit
like
on the bucket.
I'm like the get back guy on the sideline, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not responsible for anything other than just making sure the kids have fun.
That's good.
So that's fun.
That's
I
the best
don't
part.
have any of the responsibility.
You're the
So,
cool coach. That's
yeah, I'm
good.
the cool
That's
coach,
fun.
right?
Yeah,
Everybody's like, "Who's your
exactly.
favorite coach?" It's like, probably Mr. Will. Like, all he does is like high five me. You know,
He's real encouraging. Yeah,
it's
that's good.
like it doesn't. I'm not.
Yeah, I think it helps you played in the big leagues too. I mean, for
Yeah.
a long time, I'm sure that's
it's
a cool factor.
Yeah, it just with kids, man, it's just like control their experience as much as you can.
Yeah.
Like just try and teach them the right thing, make sure they're having like as much fun as they can, and then everything else takes care of itself.
Yeah.
So
Nice. Well, how did you guys link up, become friends? Because we were talking in the shop on Friday. That's how this whole podcast kind of came together and stuff. So maybe you can tell us what you guys have been talking about, doing some stuff together, anything.
Yeah, so mutual friend Matt Leuza.
Nice.
So
Yeah. LSU
former,
baseball guy.
Preseason All-American guy.
Yeah.
yeah,
So I know he likes that.
yeah. He
I
always
love that
says,
accolade right
I
there.
always like Gavin always calls him an All-American. He's like, bro, it's preseason.
Hey, doesn't matter. Hey, you had an All-American on there. That's
Yeah.
all right.
He was good. So I went.
I'm gonna start taking that. I think
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah,
That's a
hey,
taste.
it
he was
counts.
an All-American at some point. So
Yeah. There we go.
So me and him played a lot of golf together. Families
Nice.
hang out, and then so got to know Will through Matt,
Very cool.
and so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
about,
man, it's
that's
great.
about it.
Yeah, we do a little like family dinner thing in the
Yeah.
neighborhood, and we all have kids similar ages, and
Nice.
so there's 4 families that all get together. We try usually like once a month, or maybe obviously kids are busy,
Yeah.
so we can skip a
When it
few,
works.
but yeah, we just had one last night. It was a lot of fun, and just cook dinner, and kids play, and parents hang out, so it's good.
Took an awesome vacation in the middle of a hurricane to Florida together.
Yeah.
Wait, you
yeah.
guys
So
did?
those-
He came out to spring training this past year. We have a good spot. So him and his wife Summer came out with their
That's
2
nice.
kids, and
Yeah.
so yeah,
It was literally a hurricane was flying. It was coming.
yeah,
in.
Like
coming
you were
through.
flying into the hurricane.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I was
that's
like, what are we
incredible.
doing? But me and Will
Worked
took some
out.
money
It
off some
worked
boys.
out. Yeah, we played some golf. The
weather was fine?
We played really well. Yeah, it worked
Yeah,
out
actually,
great.
like didn't rain.
Yeah,
it,
like
hardly
missed
rained
us.
and-
Yeah, it like
I feel like
hit-
that's the
hit
way it
north.
goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it doesn't hit you, it's like beautiful weather. You get all the nice stuff. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I feel like that happens down here sometimes when we're
Yeah.
supposed to have hurricanes. It's like, I feel guilty about this. I'm like, it's kind
Right.
of nice today.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's nice. That's cool. Good. Well, let's talk a little bit about the business of baseball, because I think that's what you guys said you guys been kind of like nerding out on a little bit, and maybe talking about some of the things like now that Will's transitioning out of the game. But what's been kind of the stuff that's been on your mind that you guys been bullshitting about?
Yeah, cool conversation. Had just a couple of conversations about, or like I'm big into organizational structures.
Yeah.
And what makes businesses better or worse than each other.
Yeah.
And so Will's got a lot of experience just in organizations, and so we're just talking about what makes organizations good, bad, and the small details that it takes to make an organization great.
Yeah.
So that's I think that parallels to what I do and then what I see with my clients. So he's got a lot of experience there, even though he's not in business, but I mean,
Business of baseball.
business. Yeah.
Right.
I think, I mean, you can speak to this too, right? Like when I got traded, that was when I like the whole childhood boy dream of like I was the first round pick and the bonus baby and everything was great with the Red Sox. And then I was like, I flipped over to the Rangers and I was like, oh, this shit's a business. They don't give a fuck about me. They didn't even know my name after the first bullpen. Like
Right.
I went up there and they were like, who are you again? I was like, oh my God. Like, so I think that's like even just speaks volumes to how organizations, I don't want to say treat players, but you know, just like the way they view them in a business sense as
Yeah,
just
you're
like
an
a piece,
asset.
yeah, piece to a
It's
puzzle.
just an asset. It's
Exactly.
like owning a stock, right? Like
Yep.
his thing of like, you may love it, but there may come to a point where you're going to obviously have to like let it go and maybe not believe in that company as much as you did when it started and stuff like that, because you start to think about, I'm sure for you, getting traded, right? You start to running back all these conversations you had with a team that traded you. I'm like, wait a second, like this guy was.
Everything was full of shit.
Yeah, I was like were they did you? How many times they get lied to? You know, and maybe not lies, but it's like it's just part of like it's just part of that business and that culture, right? Of that you learn through experiences like everything else. You know,
I'm sure they believe that. I mean, they needed to believe that at the time, right? I was there.
Right.
They invested $2.5 million into this piece, and now it's our job to develop him to get to the major leagues or create enough value for him to send him off so we can get something back. You know, so
it's funny. I never thought about this analogy, but it's very similar to like what Gavin does, right? Like you invest in a company. Like, you believe in it.
Yeah.
Right? And you're going to, and even say that company's not doing so well, like a lot of players, you see these guys where it's like, bro, how long is this guy's leash?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like, why does this guy keep getting more opportunities than me? It's like, well, they really believe in this guy. And then they come to a point where they're like, all right.
Yep. We got to cut our losses.
We got to cut our losses
Right.
here or whatever. And then sometimes that guy then blossoms into what they, so it's actually kind of funny. It's, there's a lot of parallels there in his line of work, and maybe running a front office with a baseball organization or any sports organization for that matter.
I think it's a great parallel. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It's almost like the team's a corporation. All the players are little small businesses that you want to like acquire to like contribute to the top line revenue, right? So it's like you acquire this piece, and it's like you invested more into this guy, and so when he gets hurt, we got to invest more. It's like the double down, right? It's like the stock went down a little bit, we got to go get him good help, whatever it is, right? To try to get him back to be the piece that we need. So it does kind of like mirror all that, right? In business, at least, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think y'all describe that. I also think about your people in your organization and how you treat them.
Yes.
And then so like in y'all's world, like in the baseball world, like how well do you treat them?
Ooh.
Or like the conversation you said is, what's the three things like they got to have clarity? What was the things you were telling me that's like so impactful to just business owners? You got to know where you stand. Right. You got to be upfront with people. What were the three things?
Yeah, we were just talking over lunch about it, like just different organizations that I've been with, and you can, once you've been in multiple, say businesses for you, organizations for you and I, you can start to create a contrast of like the good and the bad of certain ones, and they all have certain things they do probably better, maybe a little bit worse, but then you start to kind of like understand like, okay, what made us successful here, successful there, and a lot of the things is communication, right? Of like being the number one thing, and it's very cliche to say that, but then when you like dive a little deeper of like some of the best farm directors I ever had, right, and different organizations, was a guy you could walk in his office and be like, hey man, where do I stand? And he could tell you right there, like, listen, this didn't happen to me, but it happened to friends of mine. It'd be like, man, you're the odd man out.
Right.
You said spring training. You're going to need maybe a couple guys to get hurt if you're going to make this team. Or, hey, man, we got you repeating AA right now. Right. And you knew right away.
There it is.
There was no bullshit. There was no, like, sugarcoat it. It was just straight to the point. You knew where you stood, and it was like, all right, I know where I'm at. Right. And I think that's, like, really important. And then, like, in his line of work of he has employees and things like that, of just communicating, look, like, this is what's going to be asked of you. Right. This is what we need you to do. You know it.
Here's the expectations.
Here's the expectations. So if you fall short of those expectations, it's not it's on you. So if I have to then not fire you, but like ask more of you or take action, like you knew on the front end, like you understood what was required of you. And so that's for baseball organizations. I always like that. Like being in a bullpen, knowing your role.
Yes.
It's a big thing.
Oh my God. That's
People
so
talk
big.
about it all the time. It's not like that every place. No. I've been in a lot of bullpens where it's not like that. And so if you understand like this is my role, this is what's going to be asked of me, then it allows you to prepare the right. It makes you better.
Yes.
You prepare better. And the same thing with employees. Like it allows them to be like, I know what's going to be asked of me today. I can prepare for that. I can do a better job, and then this company's gonna be better, and then whatever. It snowballs in the right direction.
Yeah. I think communication style is really important too, right? Like somebody might be like, "That's what I told you," and be like, "Motherfucker, no, you said something completely different," right? Trying to be on the same page with somebody, I think that's one thing I think I've learned after baseball. And then when I reflect back on being like, "Oh shit, if I just would have listened this way, or if I would have understood what they were trying to do," you know what I'm saying? I think the Rangers, I'm not throwing them under the bus or anything, but they had some information. This is right when analytics were changing, right, and all this stuff. And they were basically just telling me, hey, your pitches would have done better this way. But I felt like they were trying to reconstruct me as a pitcher, and they were withholding some information from me, right, all this stuff. If they would have said, hey, look, here's all our information, and we think the numbers say that you'll do better if you do this, have this angle, right, I would have been like, oh, fuck, all right, cool. I thought you were just trying to make me some sinker ball pitcher, and make me a completely different guy. So I think what I've learned now, owning a few businesses and having employees, like the style of communication, understanding how people understand information and relay things, is really important too. Do you see that?
I think for me, it's the constant reminder So like we all like every time like you say something that doesn't necessarily hit the first time.
Yeah.
So like me and Jeff like constantly try to remind like of what we're trying to communicate. So
Right.
it's not just like throw it out there and then it's it.
Right.
Then also to the flip side of that, being really careful to not flippantly say something.
Gotcha.
Because I used to like, so I like to think big and like, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I would be sitting with someone and be like, oh, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And they take that to like,
Yeah.
that's what's going to be. And then I disappoint him 6 months later because like, dude, I was just throwing that out there. Like, I'm,
Right. It was an idea.
we're not doing that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It was an
like,
idea.
that was crazy.
Yep.
And so
That's a great point.
So just like taking those ideas and then really, making sure they're the proper idea. So you got to like test them out, right?
Yeah.
And then how you communicate those ideas in the right setting and then remind constantly.
I love that. Damn. I love that because I definitely fall victim to that, especially in, innovating in a new world, and we're in the collectibles world. It's like we're always trying new shit, right?
Yeah.
So, but I've been I'm an idea person, and throwing that out there, I think you're absolutely right. I can definitely learn a little bit about that.
The one message thing is pretty big too. Like, in you, Anthony, can attest to this too, right? Like, you're in an organization, sometimes you might be in high A being told one thing and get called up to double A, and then it's a completely different ideology of like how to pitch and what to do, right?
Yeah.
And it happens too, even in the minor leagues, right? Like, you could be one thing and then you go to the big leagues and it's like something completely different. Now it really matters, right? Like, now the stakes are higher, as high as they could possibly be, and you're like trying to scramble to figure something out that could have been learned sooner in the minor leagues,
100%,
which is what it's there for. So I think some of your better organizations, even now in baseball, and some of the better organizations that I've played with, and then have other players playing with in other organizations, all throughout, right? Guys, I mean, relievers, right? We bounce around all the time. Is those organizations where it's like, bro, when you come in the door, like, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and it's the same message. And this is the same thing that the big league team's doing, right? And I think that's really, really important, is like that one message thing. And it may not be for you too. Like, you may go to organizations too where like I don't like this, right? And it may not work out. But they're not going to change just for you because there's 500 of you.
Yeah, actually, they're going to change you and get you out of there way quicker
exactly.
than they're going to change
like
for you.
You may not fit, and that may suck for you. But that's the business. And that coming in because they're very clear with you on the front end. This is what's expected of you. This is what you're going to do. This is you're going to go home in the off season. Like, this is what you're going to work on. Like, your changeup sucks. If you want to go to double A next year, you have to get a better changeup, right? For whatever. And you're like, all right, well,
there we go. It's laid
better
out.
go grind.
Yeah, there we go.
Right. And if I show up to spring training with a shitty changeup next year, guess what? Like, I'm going home.
And it's on me.
And it's on me. And so I think that is like, the organizations that do that, man, are ahead of the ones that don't.
No, I agree. I think when I was with the Red Sox, so I got drafted by the Red Sox first round. So every level that I was going, I had a plan, right? And it was even like to the last year in AAA, I'm like, guys, I'm going to get called up this year. Like, we can't have me on 85 pitches and pulling me in the 6th inning just because I hit my pitch limit. Like, if you guys call me up tomorrow, that's not going to happen up there. So that was one of the things that frustrated me the most. And I was up and down a lot too, right? So they still had me, even after my debut, they still had me on these like protective plans. And I'm like, guys, in 5 days, I'm going to pitch in the big leagues and I'm going to pitch 120 pitches because we need to win the game. Like, we need to start implementing this now. I'm 24 years old. It's okay. But that was the hard part. They were still protecting their asset. They didn't want me getting hurt down there, like all this stuff. So it was a weird conundrum, but it was at least they did communicate it with me. And that was the thing, was like, at least I knew I had 85 pitches. I could try my best when the manager came out there, but he was like, bro, you knew this. Like, and it was like, all right.
So even me being a reliever, this happens all the time. Is it's like, who had to pick up the slack? The bullpen. Because it was like on Anthony Start, like, he's going 85 pitches, right? And so and it's not his fault,
right?
Like, he wants to throw.
I want 120.
He wants to go 7 innings and get his dub. He didn't want to be pulled with 85 pitches with 2 outs in the 5th, and now he can't even get his freaking win, right? But like, it falls on the relievers now. Because
eat
it's
3
like,
innings.
We're the penny stocks. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's true though. Like, that's what we are. Like, we're the guys down there making league minimum, right? That like, it's so funny, but that's how it is. It's like, well, if you guys pick up the slack, but you get hurt, and this is not like, everybody and all the time. I'm saying, but my point of view,
Yeah.
I was like, well, you're a reliever, right? Like
Yeah.
we can find another one, there's only one, right? Starter, first rounder, 6'7", throwing 95. Like
That's it.
They don't grow on trees.
No.
You guys do, but like that's how it's viewed.
It's viewed, yeah, exactly. I think it's changed a lot, though. That's kind of, I think, let's talk about that. I think you can kind of weigh in on this too. Him and I had completely different careers as far as the way we were drafted, came up, made it to the big leagues, all that stuff, made our money, right? Like our wealth and all that stuff. So I think it would be cool to break down maybe like working with somebody at 20 years old who gets a huge lump sum of money, and then maybe somebody who hasn't had money their whole career and then, or has grinded for the earnings that they've made and then makes free agency. I think that would be a lot of fun. What's some advice that you would have for a kid at 20 that signs for a huge signing bonus?
So, first, I don't work with any of those guys, partly because I don't seek them out either, though, because it would be a hard task, in my opinion, to work with that individual just because they don't have the life experience. And so Will's like older, so he's just had the life experiences now to handle money differently than if you got the money at 20.
You're dealing with their parents. You're not even dealing with them.
Yeah. So
100%.
I'm just saying, like, you're not
I didn't touch really see my money or like have control of it till 24-ish, 25.
Yeah, you're not even dealing with them.
Yeah.
So, but I think if you could set them up like how we set up our business, like we run off the system called Traction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an operational system. Every business has an operating system. It's just do you know what system you run on?
Right.
It could be the Anthony system or the Gavin's. My system was terrible before we did this. So, but it starts with vision. Like, where do you want to be out into the future? And then every decision that you make today should impact that decision down the road.
I love that.
And it makes those decisions, I think, a lot easier if you could really dial that in for them.
Yep.
Like, how do we get to you at 50 or 60?
Exactly.
And how do we make the decisions today?
Is this decision is going to contribute to that at 50 years old?
Like, for our business, to bring it to a business side, like we have this 10-year vision that we have no business even going after, but we make every decision, or when we created it, we had no business going after where we were versus where we're going.
Right.
But we started living in that world of making every hire, every decision, creating every process where if we're 10X, it can't be like this. It has to be like 10X from now. And it's created this firm that's way bigger than we ever thought would be possible. But it started with the end in mind.
Right.
Not like some goofy, like, I want to
idea.
do this.
Right.
But it was like really like a thought out process. But then you make those decisions based on that.
I'm not there yet, but I feel like a lot of the successful people that I look up to emulate, that's what they say too, right? Is like eliminating the stress and the energy of the small decisions in the short term. Hey, is it contributing to the big goal, the main goal, the end goal? Cool. It's an easy day, less energy spent, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that's interesting. That's a good point. What about you, Will? What have you seen, as far as, it's probably similar because I think you made, especially as a dude, right? It might be different for women and stuff like that, but we have a maturation cycle that's probably a little different.
Yeah.
A dude getting a bag at 20 versus 30 when he's in free agency. What do you see the difference? Yeah,
I would say, like, for me, my age, when I got to free agency and stuff, being in my, it went arbitration in my early 30s and then free agency in my mid 30s. By that time, I had a wife,
right.
I had a mortgage, I had 2 kids, I had, so like my values of what was important has definitely shifted, right? Like, of me just getting to the point, and when I was like, well, I just don't want to blow it.
Yeah.
Of like making every decision of like being smart about, okay, if I'm spending money, my high value stuff that I was getting wasn't wasteful. It was going to be like renovating my house, buying another real estate property, right? So spending a boatload of money on that, but it's something it's not lighting on fire.
Right.
I'm trying to say, like,
appreciate it's something that's going to be able to set you up for the future.
Things like that, so that's where I kind of shifted, as opposed to, a 21, a 22-year-old doesn't have a wife, doesn't have kids, doesn't have those things. It's not their fault. They're not planning for the future, like in there. They're not even thinking about being 40 years old or 50 years old and their kids going to school and, and all that kind of stuff. Like, they're not thinking about that at all. Yeah. And they shouldn't be, it's, they're going to have the night. Like, for me, like where I live during the seasons is a lot different than a 24-year-old, right? Like I'm trying to get out of the city a little bit, maybe something, a little place for my kids. They're going to have a condo, 1 bedroom, but it's going to be sweet. It's going to be downtown, and they're going to pay more than me,
right?
But that's like, that's
don't
where
have
they're
the same
at.
responsibilities.
Yeah,
they're
that's
not
where they're
paying.
at.
Yeah, exactly.
So it all just kind of varies, But yeah, I mean, like, dude, I mean, I've made like one expense that it wasn't stupid. Like I bought a car and I had it for a year.
Yeah.
And then it actually appreciated. So I was like, I just got rid of it because I was like, well, but I'm like,
appreciated? That's
Corvette.
yeah, it was.
Okay,
They
nice.
didn't make any of them. The new ones, and I got like one of the first ones that came out in Houston.
That's nice. Yeah.
And so, but even that, like, just giving like a glimpse into me of like who I am, I was like, man, if I hold on to this for like 6 more months, like, I'm gonna lose money on it.
Right.
Like I'm gonna sell it.
Yeah.
No. It's just because I just
Different
not to say like
mindset.
I'm tight, but like my job is to not blow it.
Yeah.
No,
it makes sense.
And so
I feel like even at 20, that was like the big thing was like, hey, you got to make this last, right? So it was like even the first 4 or 5 years before I could really touch my money, it was like, hey, it doesn't matter. Like I know you got that money, but it's like you got to make money and that kind of stuff. So that way you don't have to touch that. So I think it was always a similar mindset, but it was not the same responsibility. I didn't have the same bills and the same things, that I needed to like think about. So I was able to invest in a few things, right? Like, and take a little bit of risk on the front end of my career and stuff, knowing that I probably had a little bit of time to hopefully make it up at the back end. So
mine started really early. So when I signed, I think I signed for, I don't know, man, 18,000, 19,000, something like that. And after taxes, I took home 13,000, whatever it was, 13,500. Yeah, I mean, nice. It was a lot of money.
That's a long time.
Dude, I was a poor college kid. Yeah. But like when I got that money, my uncle, who's a successful businessman here in Baton Rouge, first thing he made me do, bro, he shaved off $5,000 of that and I put it in an IRA.
nice. Yeah.
Okay. And at the time I was like, what?
Yeah. You're like, you can't even understand that. Yeah.
Now I was like, I could have bought a used truck. Now I can't, And so, but it was like,
that's such a great clip right there for a Louisiana boy.
Yeah. But now it's like, all right, but he's like shaved it right off, and it was like of being like, even if you just get $13,000, like you're going to save it, some of it. Right. And always having like that. So understanding that even from the very beginning, like you're always going to put some away. You're not, it's not all going to stuff. Right. It's like, you're going to put some of it away. And so that instilled in me from the very beginning with like the first, real paycheck I ever got, then made it easy that once you get in the big leagues and you sign up for the whatever
Vanguard,
401k Vanguard, it was always like max the entire time that I was in there, And I never even thought twice about it.
Yeah. No, that's nice.
So I think he answered the question is like you had a good counselor.
Yeah,
that you trusted in.
Yeah, for sure.
Like without that, it would be very difficult. To do
right.
that.
Yeah. Because I mean, I would have probably
bought a used truck.
Yeah. Because
Like
I mean, after he shaved the 5 off, I bought myself a laptop. Okay. So it was like the laptop was like $2,200, and I just like had like $7,000 left or $6,000 left, and that eventually got whittled away.
Right. Oh, definitely.
Fast.
Yeah.
Like really
fast.
quick.
Yeah.
And so, then I was glad. I was like, I still got that 5.
What kind of used truck?
Yeah,
for
what-
13,
yeah,
though?
what
That's
used-
what we want to know.
This is in 2006, right? Like this
So
is
like
not.
a-
This is
What
like,
kind?
Oh, I don't even know.
Like a single cab F-150.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah,
know.
for
Shit,
sure.
I don't- yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I was driving an Explorer that was like had both mirrors hanging off the side. Like for real, like driving on like it was flap and hit,
Like
duct
a used
tape
truck would have been a
everywhere.
nice
Before
upgrade.
NIL.
Had a
Duct
hand-
tape?
Oh,
Go
bro,
for
I had
NIL.
everything.
Dang, dude.
So yeah, I would have got something a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
but
You kept the Explorer.
huh?
You kept the Explorer.
For a long time.
Did you? Even with the duct tape while you were playing?
For a
I
long
love
time.
that.
Until I made the big leagues.
Yeah.
And I gave it to my younger brother. And
Wait,
then
so
I
you kept the
bought
Explorer
then I
too?
bought the used car. So I got caught up in 2012 and I bought a truck. So I had that Explorer.
What
for
kind of
another
truck do you buy when you?
I had an F-150.
Like a new one?
No, it was a used one.
I love that. Made it to the big league still bought. I love that.
Yeah,
though.
it was a nice one though.
Yeah.
It was really nice. I got a lot of compliments on that truck. It
Like what kind was it?
was nice, like FX4,
F-150, like a-
F-150,
like a
like
Lariat
low
or
mileage
something?
though, right? There wasn't a lot of miles
yeah.
on it. Yeah, it was
the
nice,
guy I
yeah.
bought it from, actually, he had served overseas, was stationed in Colorado Springs. So he never drove it. So it was like,
that's
so
perfect.
it was a deal.
older,
Yeah.
but it had 0 miles on it.
That's what you got to go for.
He was out in Lafayette. I went
love
out there and I went in there. A buddy told me, go here, whatever. So I went in there and I explained what I was looking for. He goes, bro, you just described my truck. And this guy was like, took care of his stuff.
Yeah.
It was the most perfect truck. I bought it. It was like $25,000 and I had it for a long time. It was awesome.
Money. I love that.
Actually bought my truck to
signed
me
the
and
big league and got
Hey,
a
me and
used
you
them.
rode here.
Yeah.
So he still works for another Ford dealership. I bought that truck.
Come
from
on.
him.
So
That's
he's got a customer for
See,
life.
he knew
For life.
what he was doing though
Dang.
too.
He's the man.
He was like,
that was
this dude's
smart.
gonna make it.
Yeah, he's the man.
So what's the new one? What's it called?
What, my
I always see it
F-150?
when
It's
that-
F-250?
No,
It's a trimmer.
Trimmer. Let's go.
Yeah, baby.
It's got the
Trimmer?
trimmer.
Yeah.
Like
Always,
is that
every
an
time I
engine
get
thing?
on like the
No,
trimmer.
it's like a package thing.
Oh, it's a
for it.
package. Yeah, okay.
But it says
Certain package.
trimmer.
Yeah, nice.
Trimmer, yeah.
It says it on the back
Yeah.
too.
It's actually
everybody
not.
knows.
I just
It's
bought,
the
I
back
just
right,
bought
you
the,
know, it's
I
like
just
this.
bought the stickers and put
You
them
did put the sticker.
That's what I was thinking about doing for a
you
Raptor.
guys
I was like,
don't
man, I always
have
wanted a
used
Raptor.
car.
I'm just
Yeah,
gonna go get the
just go on
sticker.
Amazon, bro. They
It'll be
got it.
fine. You
Yeah.
get probably like real decals
the
and really put it
sticker
up there.
package.
Yeah,
You're good. You're
I'll get
good.
like metal ones that you could
That's what
stick
I
on there
did.
too. It's
That's what
fancy.
I did. It's fine.
I'm okay.
Nobody knows. It's all about the eye appeal.
it.
Today's world with the phones and shit.
Yeah, you don't
it.
need like.
Nobody knows. Nobody's going to check that. They're just going to be like, oh, that's Will. That's
It's
probably
a
a
trimmer.
trimmer. Yeah.
It's
I
a
don't
trimmer.
I don't even know what it is,
I've
but
never
Will's
even
got it.
heard
Yeah,
of
it
a
doesn't
trimmer
matter.
until-
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Dude, but now,
He's just
yeah,
gonna put people
these
on.
trucks,
It's
man.
probably appreciating as a
trucks
trimmer.
are freaking.
Yeah, if it's got one of those chips right nowadays that are like,
can't
it's
get 'em.
crazy. I know. Yeah, that's wild.
Yep.
But I guess one more thing that I do want to like talk about and like is kind of planning while you're playing. If there was anything that you did, any investments, I think as my career went, 33 years old, most people thought I was still going to be playing, right? And especially where I was drafted and shit like that. So it didn't work out for me the way that it was supposed to, but I think I was fortunate enough that I had good advisors. I had people that there was 5 other companies that I wanted to invest in. Maybe a couple of them did well, but I had good advisors that didn't let me, but I did make investments. So maybe talk about some things and when you felt good about maybe in making investments, if you did. You talked about your uncle and how he does real estate. I don't know where you're at, but I think that's important. I think, talking about investing while you're making the money and planning for afterwards too.
Yeah, I'll go. So, yeah, I've done some real estate stuff with my uncle that's been I really enjoyed. It's interesting to me just seeing how bank relationships work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't realize when you're young, and now you realize this, right? Like if you see a wealthy man, he doesn't pay cash for stuff.
Right.
He doesn't go and build this building over here and this development and like pay $25 million.
just write a check out of his bank-
Yeah,
his
like it's
checking
not what
account.
it is.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's by making smart business deals, right? Getting good loans with low interest rates, and then you making enough money to then pay down your debt and take care of that asset. That's how
Leverage,
you
right?
that's
Yeah.
how you build wealth, right? And I didn't understand that. And I still don't have a super grasp on it, but doing these small real estate deals has like taught me that, and it's very interesting. It's very like eye-opening, right? Of like thinking that you don't need millions of dollars in cash to get started on these kind of things. Even if you have it, it's still, you can just take small bites of the apple and slowly grow it. But this analogy that I heard is the best way to describe professional athletes, and you did a good job of this. You just explained it to me of like when you get drafted and you're a first rounder or you make the big leagues, right? If you, the bathtub analogy is my favorite, where the faucet turns on the bathtub and the money is the water coming in, okay? And you're making so much money that drain, it can't keep up, right? The water's not draining out. The bathtub's filling up, okay? And you just keep making so much money, that bathtub's going to overflow. So what do? You start taking buckets, right? And you bucket out the water, and you put all these buckets around the bathroom, and one day, that faucet's going to shut off. And now that drain is going to start sucking all that money out, right? Now, a financial advisor's job is to make sure that drain hole is not too big,
Right.
where
I
it's
love that.
small,
Yeah.
so that when your bathtub starts coming down, now that bucket that was that vacation house, right, or was that boat that you bought, you don't have to start dumping that shit back in your tub to keep it afloat, right? Is keeping that drain hole small enough, because it's going to leak out, because you got expenses, you got mortgages, you got, college for your kids, and your daughter's going to get married, and there's going to be all these things. But it's making sure that you don't buy the house that you can't afford, or you don't buy all these assets that you can't get rid of, right? And it's sucking you dry, and you don't have to give all those things back, right? So like keeping your drain hole small enough, because the money is gonna turn off.
Yeah, that's definitely happening.
And so,
sometimes, yeah, it's gonna happen.
And so, like being smart enough, and so I always had that analogy in the back of my head of like, I didn't think to my mind like keep my drain hole small, right? But like
every decision he's making,
right,
is like, how fast is the water coming out?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a really good
but creating that, creating that thought of like, okay, and that's how you don't run out, right?
Yep.
So me and my wife, when we bought a lake house last year, and we've done all this stuff to it and renovated, of like protecting that to where I don't have to sell that thing, because I need the money to get back out because of something else that I can't get rid of that I got to keep paying, right? Like stuff like that. So anyway, I've always had that in the back of my mind, and I think it's helped me make or not make bad decisions, right?
No,
So
I love that analogy. Have you heard? I haven't heard
I've
that
never
one.
heard that one.
Yeah.
No, me either. No, that's really good. And I think it, like you said, for athletes, entertainers, I see it even too, like in our world, it's really weird here with the collectibles and the people that walk in the door. A lot of YouTubers come in, right? And I would think about that for them all the time. I'm like, man, you're popular right this second, right? And you're making money and all this, but it's gonna and so you're living this lifestyle to keep up with people. It's the same thing as athletes, right? Everybody. So I appreciate when we can make analogies like that make it simple for people and everything. And
I think one for like you two guys, what I've just witnessed from afar is there's this analogy called bullets and cannonballs.
Okay.
And
I haven't heard this one either. I like it.
Cannonballs are like you should. The analogy is, say there's a ship, trying to sink another ship, and they're shooting, trying to shoot them and blow them up and make them go down. Well, if you shoot a cannonball, say you have one cannonball to shoot at them and you miss, like you're done.
Right.
But if you shoot a bullet and you miss, well, you have more gunpowder to make another bullet. You shoot another bullet, and then you dial it in. And once you dial it in, then you can shoot the cannonball and sink them. And so for guys like you're doing a real estate deal with your uncle, which is like a
small bites of the apple.
It's a really good bullet you're shooting.
Right.
You didn't shoot your cannonball at the real estate deal to sink yourself.
Correct.
You shot the bullet like you did a deal with F-45. That's when I was really impressed with you. You was like, hey, you came and talked to our company. It was like, hey, we're trying to get members.
Yep.
But you shot a bullet, and it was a good bullet. But you didn't sink your whole thing with shooting a cannon. You didn't go open up any this big old gym like in the front of Perkins Road.
Exactly, my own
and
facility.
It fills
and
it goes under. So I think just a recommendation for athletes or anybody is shoot those bullets, dial in what you really want to do and what you're good at, and then shoot the cannonball.
No, that's so good too. I love that one. And I think too, generally speaking, correct me if I'm wrong too, like I think people that are younger can take a little bit more risk, right? Like we talked about, you don't have the family, the responsibility. And when I was investing into Marucci at 23 years old, it was just like, if I lost, it was like Anthony Renato lost, and maybe some of my family down the road, if I didn't be able to take care of them. But when somebody invested in my business here and they have 2 kids, if he loses, it's like, that's a way bigger loss, for his family and stuff like that. So take more risk early on in your life, and then kind of play it, as you get older, and safer as you get older and that kind of stuff. So, man, both those analogies were good though. I like that.
Yep.
Good job, Bathtub.
Thanks, man.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually steal that.
Yeah.
It's copyrighted.
I stole the bullets
right now.
I stole the bullets and cannonballs. I didn't come up with this.
Oh, man.
That's great.
Yeah.
What do you advise on? I don't know if you've ever gotten into this, but I dabbled in it, and especially in the collectibles world, because I think there's utility for the collectible space. But crypto, blockchain technology, that kind of stuff. Do you view it as an asset class? Is it an investment, a security? What do you guys view it as?
It's supposed to be a currency,
right?
So my issue with it is it doesn't act like a currency,
right?
So I think it's definitely going to be a utility that's going to be used in the future. I think there's only going to be 1 or 2.
Right. I agree.
There's a ton that just not going to do what they say they're going to do. But until it starts acting like a currency, I don't know.
Okay.
So that's my viewpoint on it. Like the U.S. dollar does not shift 20% a day.
No,
it can't.
It's,
like
that's
you
what I
can't
mean.
run
You
this business
exactly.
here. You can't go buy this jersey for $200 and now it's worth $160 because the currency went
that
down.
you used.
Yeah. So that's until it stabilizes, I think it's concerns for sure.
Do you see crypto as like or blockchain the technology itself? Do you see it being utilized as a currency or more as, like we said, a utility and that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So I think Bitcoin. I don't know a whole lot about it, but like Bitcoin was invented for a currency purpose, right? First like the dark web. I think.
Yeah.
You could buy things where the government doesn't know.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. There's some movie, you probably know the movie. It was awesome movie. Is it that the movie where it's like in 2010 or something like that?
Yeah.
So like that's a really interesting utility
Yeah.
and use of the currency, like
Right.
when you could exchange currency across like internationally and stuff
Yep.
like that. So yes, although can we own a lot of it going up and down 20%?
That's the thing.
That's the hard. Like, can a business operate on it?
Right.
No. Like Elon Musk
Right.
allowed it. I think it was just a play, like to
yeah.
get some gain in Tesla, but he can't operate Tesla on Bitcoin.
I don't think so.
You know,
No.
so I don't know. Until that can happen, I don't know.
And even Bitcoin, to me, that's why, honestly, what got me into crypto was hearing Bitcoin's kind of like supply and demand laws.
Yeah.
And I was like, this actually applies in the collectible space. It's
Yeah.
like gold, like, again, this is all conceptual and still so new, but there's only going to be 21.8 million Bitcoin ever mined. They're not all out yet. So that's why there was speculation on why it was so valuable and all that stuff. But to me, it was just simple supply and demand laws. If it's true and the contract is right and all that stuff, like this is just simple supply and demand. That's what got me into it, of like, let me just start understanding it. And then I understood Ethereum a little bit more and its use in the space for like non-fungible tokens, NFTs and all that shit. But I'm interested to see how it plays in the future. I think it has a place, but I just don't. I think it's like 1995 internet world right now, where we're like, oh, this is a cool concept, but I don't know what the fuck it's gonna do. You know, like,
You would never take my advice on it because I don't know much about it. But I see, like, I heard one, like a real estate purchase, like you can have your mortgage on it, you could have your like warranties on it, like everything's on a documented.
it's a ledger.
Yeah, it's a ledger. So that to me was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But
And that's where I think
don't
it's
know-
going to be applicable. Is
Yeah.
like basically the way that I was understood to like learn crypto was, instead of a person writing code for a website or whatever, it's now computers. Yeah, a person has to write the code for the computer to write the code, but they're going to write that code forever. So it takes the human element out of it, and that's why the ledger situation for like mortgages, and I think for memberships and tickets and all that stuff, I think that's where it's like really interesting. Of like, oh shit, this is. And then
Now the collectibles, you got nostalgia going for you too.
Exactly.
'Cause we were just talking about Mortal Kombat. He's got a little game right here,
yeah.
arcade game. I'm like, dude, you got to get this.
Yeah.
like guys like us, like we grew up on
Yep.
Mortal Kombat, so it's like,
Yeah.
you know, you have that nostalgia going for you too.
Yeah.
So
I'm so interested in the collectibles world because like we're talking about with the blockchain and all that stuff, I think it's a way to like create authenticity too. And like, if you can somehow connect the physical item with a digital token or something that lives in a wallet and has a value, and that's where it gets interesting. But again, I don't know who regulates, like, but that's the thing, is they don't want anybody regulating it. It's so interesting. So some space cadet shit for sure.
How is the NFT stuff going? Because it's like, is it making this stuff more valuable because people have been like, well, why would I have that when I can go have the real?
I think so. I think there's definitely an
That's what
element
I
of that.
think.
Yeah.
That's how my man was like, once that kind of got up into this stratosphere of like, what are we talking about now?
Yeah.
And people were like, why don't I just go get the
real.
actual?
Yes.
Right. And it almost like zeroed it all in
Yep.
on the actual collectible market in my mind.
I couldn't agree more. And it appealed to people that are our age and older who have money to go buy the
we have
real
money,
things.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The young kids are like, oh, this crypto and like the digital and the NFTs and all that. And everybody's like, well, fuck, I'm just going to go buy, like exactly what you said. So that definitely has increased that value. But I do think that eventually there will be some smart kid that figures out how to do all this shit and apply it to like, this is just my guess, is I think the physical items will have some sort of, like the same way we have chip technology and stuff like that. Like you'll be able to tap your phone and pull up like a digital copy and see who owns it. Like you'll go to a museum and instead of like doing a QR code and reading about the artist and going to their website, it'll maybe do that, but it'll also say Will Harris owns it. He bought it on this date and he bought it from this person, and it's all in a ledger system that creates authenticity and a chart for prices. So there's no, inflation and things like that. So that's where I think the NFT technology is
kind of
interesting.
like your house, like you can see like such and such bought it this date, this price.
Correct.
And then there's a ledger of that.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why for my world, I'm interested in this NFT stuff. It's just the thing that sucks is like there's always greed in new technology, right? So last year, and everybody's turned off with the word NFT now. It's just, we got to call them digital collectibles and shit because NFTs are like
The house for like 600,000.
yeah, stupid shit.
In the metaverse. Did you buy one?
But it's like
Apparently you can like be like
can be
neighbors
like-
with, like Snoop Dogg or
Oh,
something.
yeah.
Snoop Dogg's neighbor for like 600,000.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a deal.
what a
Yeah,
snatch
that's like,
that.
remember that drain thing? That's a big, that makes your drain.
There's a couple holes in the tub on that one. Yeah,
Yeah, that's not keeping it small.
No,
yeah,
that's keeping it big.
that's so
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's just like
Adding the dream.
everything in the '90s when they were like Pets.com is $18 billion. It's like, motherfucker, that like what? Like we didn't know how to like value things. So that's the same thing. People were looking at these pictures and being like, it's worth 40 grand. It's like, what? Why? No, that's dumb. Like, so I definitely played it in the arbitrage and like, made some money, lost some money, but it was just interesting to see how like crazy people took it and stuff. But
how it played out.
Yeah. So I was just curious to see what like the investment world thinks of that and how you advise clients and things.
It's
so how would this work though? So let's just say like there's I don't know, a digital thing of, let's just call it a baseball player, right? How art works, where when the art sells, the artist gets a percentage, right? So like if you buy a painting for $10,000, and then that painting, you didn't paint it. I say I painted it, right? You buy it from me for 10 grand.
No, I wanted to paint it.
You sell it for $1 million in 5 years.
You don't get it.
You could keep on earning a commission on it.
Correct. The artist
that's
does.
good. So they could appreciate, they could keep on earning more on that art.
Right.
It's actually pretty good.
So do you remember exactly what you're saying? This is actually what caused like the whole art thing to go crazy was, and speaking to the mortgage thing too, a smart contract, right? You can design the smart contract however you want. So you can put an artist royalty in there. Every time this sells, the original artist gets 10%.
Right.
Or the house. Hey, imagine.
It makes sense.
Right.
Like when I heard that, I was like, well, yeah, like why would they not?
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say? Because like the original,
it would entice them to do better work and more of like,
it just seemed like that would be a good thing.
Because the artist like sells it for $1,000 and now it's selling for $10 million.
Yeah, and you're sitting like the artist is like, grinding in their apartment. You're like, what
hoping
the
to create
hell,
another
bro?
one. Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know that thing's going to be worth $2 million in 5 years or whatever, but they get the royalty. And I don't know if it's like that everywhere. If you have to, I don't know anything.
Is that
about
even?
It. I'm just thinking I heard.
Oh
it
yeah,
the other day.
that's what in 2021 was the big thing. So OpenSea, right? It was like so OpenSea is like the Amazon of digital collectibles and NFTs and all that shit. Same way you go to Amazon to find something, you would go to OpenSea and be like, oh, let me check out if Will Harris has an NFT collection or whatever. And so then you would go type in Will Harris and you have your NFT collection.
I don't have one.
He does not have one. He's not.
He could make money on like his cars selling.
Yeah.
We literally we messed around with that in that world just to see how it would go and
how it would play out.
Yeah, exactly. Just to see but that's exactly what it was. We wrote the contract so that way every time somebody bought and sold our NFT, we got a 5% commission on it and stuff. So in perpetuity, if it ever blows up or does something right, like that's the idea behind it. But that's what imagine doing that for a house, right? You write the deed to your house. Every time it sells, I get a 0.5% commission, or this owner, the Renato family, gets 0.5 commission. 200 years when the house is selling for X amount, right? That 0.5 is nice for your family and or whatever, right? Like that was the big explosion of like, oh, this technology is cool, but again, we don't know how it's going to be really utilized in the future.
Yeah, like the monkey, like with the picture of the monkey for like 70,000, that's worth like $13 now.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of mess.
Yeah, but those bored apes are
it delayed it.
Yeah. Bored apes are still fucking worth $100 grand, dude. I'm like, I don't
that's
get
what
it.
I'm talking about. It's still 100,000.
Yeah, it's nuts. I don't know. It's nuts.
Hey, there's many things that you don't
I guess that's what it is. Sometimes I look
say.
up a piece of art and I was like, that's $3 million. I'm like, that's cool, but I think the one in my room for 400 is cool too. Like, you know, so it's just what somebody's willing to pay for it and stuff. So
that's cool.
Yeah. I thought this was good, guys. So thank you. This was fun.
Enjoy it every time.
Yeah, thank you. Fun. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I always like to give different insight. We have a variety of listeners and stuff like that, from sports, performance, business, that kind of stuff. So I think this was really good. And I just had a kid named Blaine Enlow. I don't know if you know that name, but he's a Baton Rouge kid. And we were talking about how he got $2 million out of high school. So it's just cool contrast and different stories and things like that. And people can hear different perspectives. So appreciate you guys.
Awesome, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.